Welcome to the Mobile Economy Podcast. This is Eric Garrison and Dominique Jabor. This is our first video podcast of 2021, our second podcast of the year, but our first video one. We're coming to you from our new video and podcasting studio here in our office in Hillsborough. So we have got the sound room created here. We've got our very fancy computer-controlled lights up in the ceiling here today. And we've also got our set that is fully complete here. So we are, this is kind of our maiden voyage. So hopefully you enjoy. So what do we have on the docket today, Dominique?
All right, so today we're actually going to be discussing the 10 top tips to starting a food truck. Everything that you're going to need to know from pricing, doing your homework, doing your research, your local laws and regulations, everything that you should absolutely be thinking about before putting any money into starting a food truck business in 2021.
Yep. I know this is a topic we've talked about a number of times, and you probably have heard this, but we keep refining this checklist as the time and here as COVID goes along, as well as things change. But the basic bare bones, items that you need to do when thinking about a food truck or any type of mobile business, this also applies to mobile service businesses, still stays the same. The number one item I have is do your homework. So if you want to get into a food truck or a service truck, the number one thing I'd say is make sure you do your research, even down to operating a food truck. I am not the type of person that wants to own a food truck. It is something we operate businesses that work with the food trucks. But at the end of the day, even I have worked inside of a food truck. I have been inside of a couple of the food trucks. I have prepped food inside of the food trucks. Even at one of our events, I got to go and crawl up underneath of a fryer and help one of the owner-operators who had a problem with the fryer firing up. And it came down to the fact that he needed an extra set of hands or that event wasn't going to happen today and he wasn't going to be able to cook. Luckily, it was a very clean truck. I have to say that laying on the floor of that truck was not dirty. It had just come back from the commissary and was 100% immaculate. Let's put it this way. A couple of our people, I don't know if I would want to be in the backseat of their car versus the food truck was much cleaner. But definitely do your homework. Even to the point that we've had some of our employees, since we work in the food truck business, with the trucks, we've had people like our VP of development who has worked a shift running a fryer. Our guy out there who is, in charge of the code for our websites and for the apps and everything. He has dropped and battered a lot of fish and food into the fryer later and has been in the back of a food truck at least 2 occasions. So that's our number one tip, is to do the research and make sure that you know what you're getting into.
Yeah, and one of the easiest ways to do that research is literally go up to any food truck owner, operator that you know in your area and just talk to them. You can ask them what their biggest regret was when they first started, what their biggest failure was and how they learned from that failure and adapted and grew. It's really important to learn from their mistakes. That way you can really start from the best possible starting point, and you're not going to be setting yourself up for failure because you know you're absolutely not going to do these things that they're suggesting you don't do. Yep. So the number 2 tip is to test out your ideas, your menu, if you even are going to enjoy running a food truck, before you fully commit and throw thousands of dollars into opening a whole new food truck business. So again, you're going to want to do your research and everything, of course, but as Eric said, you're going to want to work in a food truck if you can. You want to at least, have somebody who's going to allow you to work a week in their food truck, see how the environment is, see if it's something you actually really want to do. And then when it comes to your menu, you really want to make sure that you're testing out all of that food on your family, friends, neighbors, people that you trust to give you an honest opinion, because you don't want to just spend all this money on a beautiful food truck. Maybe you're a great chef, but your personal taste isn't what the people in your area want to eat. So you really need to test everything out before you fully commit to it. Because again, that's another thing that could just totally set you up to fail right from the start, is if you jump the gun on something that seems pretty simple as like a menu, but it's actually one of the most important pieces to having a successful food truck business.
And definitely try your recipes out on people that are partner companies that work with you. I'm not just saying that because a lot of the food trucks give Moblz employees and us, the food. We do respect that relationship and do appreciate when we get the sample products from the food truck to give them feedback on. And there's going to be things that are going to hit and be wonderful. And if you got the right people, they're going to give you the feedback and go, boy, that was close, but not quite, or you might want to rethink that recipe. I would say on a lot of the newer food trucks, when we have sampled their menus, there have been that one item that you go, we know that that's not going to be a hot seller because it is just too complex, you don't understand it, or it's just missing something. So we also find that sometimes, depending on what the food truck environment is, something that may work well at a bar and a beer establishment will work different in an office park that is more a little health conscious, let's say. So, think about that from the menu standpoint. The other tip is, around the financing. You want to make sure you secure ample financing before jumping into a food truck. Pre-COVID, 60% of businesses fail because of lack of financing. That is even harder now with COVID. So you want to make sure that you have got money to be able to not just buy the truck, but buy the supplies and do some marketing, but also to be able to sustain yourself for the ramp-up period, because you're not going to make money the first week you take the truck out. It's going to take time to establish that, and that money gives you a better chance of success. You probably want to make sure that when you go into this, you've got an emergency fund of a couple $1,000s to deal with any type of emergency that comes up with the truck that you need to deal with, but also from the fact that you didn't get the sales that you thought you were going to be, or you have a weather or COVID hits again and there's something that shuts down the truck from being able to serve. So make sure your financing is secure is our number 3 tip of what you want to make sure that you have going into the food truck space.
And for number 4, you're going to want to make sure that you know and have every permit, regulation, law, local, state that is in your area that you plan to serve, because some states, they don't even allow food trucks to serve in certain areas, and even if they do, they make it incredibly difficult for them to serve. Eric was telling me earlier about how certain places you have to have a specific permit to reserve a spot, but they don't keep that spot reserved for you, so if you park elsewhere, you get fined. So it's really important to read up on all of those local laws and anything that can really be a drain on your funds for this business, because you don't want to be racking up all these fees and unable to actually get out and start serving.
Yep. The number 5 tip is going to be about the truck or trailer itself. So a big difference is a trailer is something that you pull behind another vehicle. The truck is one that, of course, has a motor. I only say that if you're an established food truck person, you go, oh yeah, I know the difference. A trailer is going to be lower cost to buy and to operate and have less mechanical issues of it. You then have to worry about the pull vehicle and making sure that you've got the pull vehicle available to do it. A lot of people do start off with the trailers. They are lower cost. They are easier to outfit. They definitely, because they're less footprint, they take less wrap material and prep. But what I would say is to make sure that you get a vehicle that's big enough for what you need to do for like the period that you want to run up. But a lot of people look at this as, I am going to do this as a stepping stone. I'm going to start with a trailer and do this, and then maybe I get rid of, or I don't get rid of the trailer. I use it for secondary purposes in catering, and I move into a bigger truck. We've seen that quite a bit. We've even seen it with the high volume trucks, like the Cousin's Maine Lobster truck, who has a big truck, number 1, and an even bigger truck, number 2. And that is something we have seen in multiple, markets, not just our market here, where we've seen some of these operators who start off with one vehicle, or they start off with one size vehicle and then supersize it along the way. And here with COVID, we have seen a number of food truck operators who have dusted off the old trailer that they operated and started taking it to events because it takes less gas, it's easier to operate, it's smaller. So they're able to do more events by having that trailer back on the road and operate with the smaller footprint.
And tip number 6 is to make sure to team up with the right people and keep them around. Never stop learning from each other. Never stop training each other. There's so much you can learn when you have the right people in your corner. So this could be other food trucks and food truck owners that you're working with. Again, when we were talking about tip number 1, doing your homework, you are learning a lot from these people just by asking them their biggest failures and everything. That can help you grow a relationship with them. So then when you need any other advice in the future, when you need advice on your menu or some issue with your food truck or a big business decision, you can take some of their advice into account, and you can know that you have people you trust with you to give you good and honest feedback. It's really important to keep that solid team around you. And then that also goes for the actual employees that you have in your food truck. Whether it's your own family or you're hiring people outside that you trust to cook the food or just to take orders, whatever it is, run your social media, you're going to want to make sure that these are people who understand your vision, understand your brand, and they want to put the best version of your brand forward for you. Number 7 is all about location. Your location is everything. If you park out at some random spot on the side of the highway that no one's going to be able to pull over at or safely park their car and get out and get food, of course you're not going to get any business. If you're able to get a location, say at an office park or at a college campus or a packed apartment during the summer, you will have so much better service. It really can make a difference because sometimes you have the best food, the best menu, but you are just not in the right place at the right time. We've experienced that this past winter with a lot of people being out of the office in the colder weather. It was a bit difficult for some of the food trucks to get a decent amount of service out at the places they normally do amazing at. So it's really important to pay attention to what your local community is doing and where they're gathering, so you know the best spot to bring your food truck to.
Yeah, you refer to that as park and pray, when they park someplace and don't have any idea of how much they're going to do out of a food truck. Another option when you're starting up, when we talk about partnering with somebody, that is why you want to partner with another food truck if you can, because they will let you know some of the places that are a little more advantageous to go, or they can tell you, when I was starting out, I would park at at this construction site from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and I did some decent business there. So that's something you're only going to find by working with a food truck who's been there and done that. So.
And then that kind of leads us into tip number 8, promote. Promote the heck out of yourself. It is so important to get your name out there because in places, at least like here in North Carolina in the RTP and Chapel Hill areas, there's a good amount of food trucks that are out here. And if they don't have social media, if they're not consistently parking at the same spot every day, every week, if they're not promoting themselves and getting their name out there, then they can completely get lost in the crowd of all the other food trucks. So one great example is the Latin Effect. They are still fairly new. They started just like a few months ago probably, and they have a great social media presence. They are partnering with other food trucks. They are partnering with us at Moblz. They are really using every possible resource to their advantage to get their name out there and make sure that people, when they hear Latin Effect, they know, oh, that's a food truck that is always in this RTP area that I've seen when I'm driving home, or I saw it on social media. So it's really, really important to promote.
Yep. And that leads us into tip number 9, which is, how can you grow your revenue? So, the first thing you need to do is start getting some sales. And what you want to do there is look at, where you're able to get the sales. You may or may not be able to afford a point of sale system out of the gate, but understanding your revenue and keeping an accurate count of the revenue is going to be very important. So keep an accurate count of how many tickets you do, how many meals are on each ticket, and how much dollars you have. Ideally, you want to also start getting to the mindset of a point of sale system where you're recording our special sold this number, our secondary item sold this. You want to know how many you're doing. You'll find also that really helps you out when you go to buy product. Then you're able to better cost things and know. A lot of people will say you need to make sure that you've got a 30% food cost. Yes, absolutely. You want to work towards that food cost. But if you don't have any sales and revenue and don't know where it's coming from, that's much harder to do. So I would advise somebody that what they probably want to do start off is track your sales, what people are buying, what is popular, and what you know is the numbers, not what you think is the number, is a very important thing. We work from a technology standpoint with a lot of different businesses, and we put point of sale systems into restaurants who the owners will swear up and down, this is my hottest selling item, this is my money maker. I can't tell you how many times we've gone back and the restaurant says, this is my money maker, I can't change this. And after the point of sale, especially, not that they're a sponsor or anything, Touch Bistro has done well for us going into a number of restaurants and a number of other ones. But when we put the system in like that, the next thing you know, that restaurant is going, oh, really? My food cost on this is 55%? And it takes this much time to make? So I'm not making money off of that? It is so funny when you go, yeah, your moneymaker sometimes is that silly appetizer that you think you have a 30% margin on, and you find, or a 30% food cost on, and you find you only have a 15% food cost on, and that silly appetizer is your moneymaker, and this entree that you sell a lot of is not. It's going to be that same way in a food truck for sure. You need to make sure you know what the numbers are. And that gets us into tip number 10, which is manage your food truck as if it's any other business. It is a business. You need to keep accurate records. You need to make sure that the money that you're collecting is not going into your right pocket. It needs to go through an accounting system and make sure that you are accounting for every dollar and keeping the money in the business. One thing that you'll probably want to do is work with an accountant, but also study how businesses operate businesses, such as knowing what markup is on a product and how to just keep your financial house in order. Because a lot of times it's easy to go out and feel really good that you sold a lot of food on a given night, but you want to be able to have these systems in process, whether technology systems or pen and paper, to know that I just had a great night and sold all this business, and how much money did I make from it? Because then you got to also subtract out all the other costs, such as your equipment depreciation. The life of a food truck is finite. They don't run forever. That fryer-later only has so many cycles. So when you turn that fryer-later on, you only get so many cycles out of the oil. You only get so many cycles out of it. They will wear out. Especially if you bought used equipment, you're buying something that you're paying a lot less for, but it has a far less useful life. And refrigerators, especially that way. When it's a food truck, this thing is going up and down the road. The power is on and off. You're plugging into shore power. You're running off a generator. A lot of those pieces of equipment will have a shorter life than what they would have had inside of a restaurant. So you need to take that into an account when you're calculating your finances, and make sure you've budgeted to be able to do that. And that's something that when you operate your food truck or mobile service business as a business are the type of principles that you will adopt. So.
All right, so those were our top 10 tips for everything you need to know and everything you should be researching for yourself before starting a food truck. So we actually have an event coming up this Friday, January 15th at Quadrangle in Chapel Hill at the Quadrangle Business Park. And it's going to be a blood drive event with One Blood, and they're the mobile blood donation bus. We work with them.
The big red bus.
Yep, the big red bus. We worked with them a few times before, so they are really fun to work with. And every single donor that comes to donate blood will get COVID antibody testing, and they will get some free swag. So there's online gift cards, Carrabba's free appetizers for the Carrabba's Italian restaurant, a free t-shirt, and again, you get the COVID antibody testing for free, which I think is probably the most valuable gift that you can get. And then we'll also have Cousin's Maine Lobster out there as well. So if you come around lunchtime, they'll be out there from 11:30 to 1:30, and you could grab some delicious tacos from them. They also have these whoopie pies that I'm so excited to try again.
They're about this big, a bazillion calories, but calories don't count in 2021. I got the memo on that. They're definitely worth giving a shot. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's going to be, again, January 15th. That's this Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. is the blood drive. And you could go online to OneBlood and register for an appointment with them. And you can also go to our social media, which is just Moblz on Facebook. It's Moblz, Moblz. And if you go to our event page, we have all of the information that I just said listed out there, as well as the link to register and sign up for an appointment. So we really encourage you to do that. Blood donations are very sparse right now, especially with the hospitals being overflowed with the pandemic and everything. So we really encourage you to try and come out, or at least share those posts with your friends in the area. Other than that, be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And do you have anything else to add?
Nope. Thank you for watching, and give us feedback. We plan to make modifications to how we do things. We're going to be learning here, but look forward to having you watch us on YouTube and listen to us on the podcast, and give us feedback on how we're looking and sounding now that we are in the video format as well. So appreciate everybody following, hitting the subscribe and the follow buttons to keep up to date with what we have going on. Thank you.